New details for you on the torture of that man who's disabled. This was something that happened in Chicago and was live streamed on Facebook. The 4 suspects being held without bail right now, and the judge told them she didn't see a, quote, sense of decency in them. All 4 have been charged with aggravated kidnapping because they allegedly asked the victim's mother for a $300 ransom. CNN legal analyst and criminal defense attorney Joey Jackson's been looking into this. So, Joey, first of all, based on everything we've seen thus far, does this constitute a hate crime because of the mental capacity of the alleged victim here and because of some of the racial epithets that were thrown out at him?
Good morning, Christy.
Good morning.
Horrific story indeed. I really think it does. Now, obviously, in a court of law, they're entitled to due process, and they'll have that. They appeared before the court, denied, as you mentioned, bail, and the process now begins. But in terms of the proof that the prosecutor has to proffer before a jury, if it gets that far, they'll base that proof on, again, one of the 2 things. Either race, and here we see a video where they are saying derogatory things with respect to the president-elect, with respect to white people. And then, of course, we know that the victim has that mental disability or impairment of some sort. And so on 2 grounds, according to Illinois law, you can proceed on a hate crime. And really what will be proven, or the prosecution's burden will be, is did they engage in this behavior? That is, the defendants in this case, the 4 of them, acting collectively and jointly, did they engage in it, as we see them there, Christy? When was it based upon anything related to race and anything related to that impairment? And so it appears, again, they're entitled to due process, but certainly from that Facebook video, it appears to be that that's the case, and it'll be up to a jury to make that determination ultimately.
Joey, do you anticipate that the 3 younger suspects here, 18-year-olds, will attempt to incriminate the oldest by asserting that they were perhaps being led or ordered by her?
You know, Chrissy, in any case where there are multiple defendants, what you oftentimes see is you see a pointing of the fingers, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, I didn't do it, they did it, he didn't do it, she did it. And so I do expect in many cases where there's that finger pointing. As it relates to age, though, remember that 18, yes, it's young, but you're considered an adult under the law. And so I think where the age will factor in, it'll factor in terms of what we call mitigation. It doesn't excuse anything. But I think when you're younger, the defense attorney will argue, because the proof here is it's very significant. A defense attorney will argue in terms of the sentencing, and we should also point out the aggravating kidnapping charge is, you know, when you pointed out based on the ransom, and, you know, asking the mom, it carries up to 30 years in jail. It's very significant. And so I think what you'll see is an argument from the defense that the focus for the 18-year-olds should be on rehabilitation. There's some redeeming quality about them, so they shouldn't be put in jail forever. And so if they're convicted, I think that's the argument you'll see. But again, the fact that they're 18 does not excuse under the law, even though, one's 24, any criminality at all.
Joey, I think one of the things that's so jolting about this is that they had the boldness, the audacity to put it up on Facebook Live. How does that element play into this case? Because it does still seem like this is new territory.
Yeah, it really does. As we see a burgeoning, Christy, of technology and its uses, some uses very good, other uses quite deplorable, as we see here. But I think it factors in a couple of ways. First of all, it shows an intention. It shows that they knew exactly what they were doing, broadcasting it, laughing about it, glamorizing it, and taking joy in celebrating what they were doing, of course. So that number one is the case. And secondly, Christy, it's very significant in terms of proof. You know, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, we could imagine what a video is worth. And so, in the event that, again, it goes that far, there could be plea discussions, negotiations, etc., between the district attorney and their defense lawyers. But if it goes that far, think about it for 1 second, Christy. You're on that jury. You see that videotape. What does it do to you? What does it do to your feelings, to your emotions, to your thoughts about who can possibly do such thing? Where is the humanity of it? And so I think it plays in very significantly as far as the compellingness of the evidence to show, you know what, they knew exactly what they were doing, and what they were doing, it's really inhumane.
Which makes you wonder if the defense will even allow it to get to trial, if maybe there will be some pleading out here. Joey Jackson, we appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy.
Up next on... New details on the torture of a disabled man in Chicago that was live streamed on Facebook. The 4 suspects are being held without bail. They're charged with aggravated kidnapping because they allegedly asked the victim's mother for a $300 ransom.
The defendant, Hill, communicates with the victim's mother and demands $300 ransom in exchange for getting her son back.
Well, police are investigating to determine if the attack was racially motivated. Well, this is, as we know, another case that can trigger careful conversations between parents and their children. Our next guest may have a blueprint for those talks. April Ryan back with us. She's the author of At Mama's Knee. It talks about how mothers teach their children or discuss with their children matters of race in America. April, good to have you back.
Thanks, Victor.
Also, the White House correspondent for American Urban Radio Networks. April, I want to get to, we've seen so many of these instances where these high-profile cases, this one streamed live on Facebook, prompt these very difficult conversations. Was there some common denominator you found with these diverse groups of mothers?
And also people who are mothers or from what their mothers told them. Yeah, the common denominator is that it's a heart issue, and we have to, as mothers, talk to our children about matters that are so sensitive. And at a time like this, we need to explain the dynamics in a way that they can understand, but also offer hope for a brighter day. And that's what I found.
Yeah, you know, one of the writers for the New York Daily News, Sean King, who has a huge following, not just for his writing, but also on social media, he wrote this about specifically these 4 people who are being held for this crime that was streamed live. This country does not need me to speak out on crimes committed by black folk because nobody in this country is held more responsible for the crimes they commit, and even the crimes they don't commit, than black folk in America. What did you learn about the conversations as it relates to justice specifically?
When it relates to justice, I talked to, in this book, people like Gwen Carr, the mother of Eric Garner. I talked to Sabrina Fulton, the mother of Trayvon Martin. And they look for justice, but at the same time, they know that the issue of race is an issue of race and justice is a long track history that we're still trying to grapple with. And again, it goes back to the heart of the matter. And Victor, you and I both came from the Baltimore area. And actually, I found we didn't live too far from each other. But the bottom line is being here at a time after the Freddie Gray death, murder, or what have you, whatever you want to call it, but the Freddie Gray death here in Baltimore, I had to tell my 2 little girls, 14 and 9, and when you talk to your children, it's like sugar and spice and everything nice, typically, but I had to bring the realities of the day to them and try to explain what was going on. And I even had to go to my 9-year-old who had a Nerf cannon gun. And she was out in our backyard playing. And my aunt said, come in the house, because a little kid was killed by police, shot to death because they thought he had a real gun, not a toy gun. Yeah. So the realities are creeping into our home. There's no excuse for any violence, any hate crimes, but we have to talk to our children, our next generation of leaders, to really send the message that things have got to change. Things have got to change. And people in this book, to include President Obama, talking about how his mother influenced him on race.
Yeah, you know, let me jump in here, because you bring up President Obama, and he said after watching this video that he still thinks the overall trajectory of race relations in this country is actually very positive.
Yeah. If you look at the arc of history, you know, we've moved the ball, the pendulum, but we still have a long way to go. And I want to bring something even closer to home. Just 2 days ago, I was with Harry Belafonte, and he said to me, you know, in the midst of this time, he said it's a great time, because basically he remembered back to what W.E.B. Du Bois said to him about the fact that when you have problems and horrific problems in the nation, this is the time when there is activism and when there is a time that's right for change. So we have to see what happens with what's going on now, but yet there is going to be a change. People are going to rise up. There is a new wave of activism coming to change the dynamics that are happening.
You know, you mentioned your conversation with your 9-year-old, and Rosa Flores here at CNN has an interesting series about the disappearing front porch in Chicago. The children are not allowed to sit outside because of the violence there. April Ryan, the book is At Mama's Knee, the conversations and lessons from mothers about race. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Victor.
All right, Christy?
All right, such good thoughts there. Listen to this one. Voice-activated cars, emotionally intelligent robots. Does that exist? Well, we're going to show you the technology of tomorrow as thousands of tech companies flood Las Vegas for CES, or the Consumer Electronics Show. Stay close.